Hey everyone, my name is Sarah and I'm an ex-Amish girl from Pennsylvania. I grew up in Lancaster County, right in the heart of Amish country, and I left the community when I was 18 years old. Today, I want to answer a question I get asked all the time. Do Amish women actually know their husbands before they get married? And the answer is way more complicated than you'd think. So let me break this down for you based on what I lived through and what I saw in my community. First off, let me clear something up right away. Amish marriages are not arranged. That's a myth that people believe because of how controlled everything else is. You do get to choose who you marry. But here's the catch. The way you get to know someone, the amount of time you have, the things you're allowed to talk about, and what you're actually permitted to do together is so restricted that by the time you walk down that aisle, you barely know this person at all. You know a version of them, a carefully controlled, community-approved, surface-level version. And that's a problem. Let me take you through what courtship actually looked like in my community, and you can decide for yourself if we really knew our husbands before marriage. Dating usually starts around age 16 for the guys and 14 or 15 for the girls. And when I say dating, I don't mean what you're thinking. There's no going to movies, no restaurants, no hanging out at each other's houses, just the two of you. Everything happens in group settings. Sunday night singings were the big thing. All the young people would gather, sing hymns, and that's where you'd catch someone's eye. If a boy was interested, he'd offer you a ride home in his buggy. That buggy ride, maybe 30 minutes to an hour, that was your private time. And everyone in the community knew who rode home with who. Word traveled fast, so even that wasn't really private. Now here's what people don't understand. You don't date around in the Amish community. Once you start riding home with someone, that's it. You're courting. You're on the path to marriage. There's no casual dating to figure out if you're compatible. No trying out different relationships to see what you want. You pick someone, usually by age 16 or 17, and you're expected to marry them within a year or two. Most Amish couples get married between ages 20 and 22. That means you've got maybe 1 to 2 years to figure out if this is the person you want to spend your entire life with. And remember, there's no divorce in the Amish church. Once you're married, you're stuck for life. So, what do you actually do during that 1 or 2 years of courtship? Honestly, not much. You see each other at church every other Sunday. You might see each other at frolics, which are community work gatherings. And then there's the buggy rides home from singings. Some couples, especially in stricter communities like mine, practice something called bundling or bed courtship. I know that sounds wild, but it's real. The boy would come to the girl's house and they'd lie in bed together, fully clothed, supposedly just talking. The parents were right there in the next room, and the idea was that you could have conversations and get to know each other. But let me tell you, it was awkward as hell. You're a teenager lying in a bed with another teenager, trying to have deep conversations while knowing your parents are listening through the wall. And yes, a lot of girls ended up pregnant before marriage because of this practice. Then there'd be a rushed wedding to cover it up. But here's the bigger issue. Even with all that time lying in bed talking, what are you actually talking about? You're not discussing your dreams, your fears, what you really want out of life, because in the Amish world, there's only one acceptable dream. You're going to get married, have kids, live on a farm or work a trade, go to church, follow the Ordnung, and die in the same community you were born in. That's it. So conversations during courtship were surface level. You talked about farming, about families, about church. You didn't talk about doubts. You didn't talk about what you really thought about the rules. You definitely didn't talk about whether you actually wanted this life, because if you admitted you had doubts, the relationship was over. And let's talk about physical affection, because that's another huge part of knowing someone before marriage. In my community, there was zero physical contact before the wedding. No holding hands, no hugging, no kissing, nothing. The first time I would have touched my husband, if I'd stayed and gotten married in the community, would have been on our wedding day. How are you supposed to know if you have chemistry with someone, if you're attracted to them, if touch feels right? When you've never even held their hand? You can't. You're going into marriage completely blind. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, sex education. Or I should say, the complete lack of it. Nobody talks about sex in the Amish community. Not your parents, not your friends. There are no books, no conversations, nothing. I went into my late teens having no real understanding of what sex actually was. I knew it happened, obviously, because we lived on farms and saw animals, but nobody explained what it would be like between humans. Nobody talked about consent, about communication, about what was normal or healthy. So when Amish couples get married, they're both going into the wedding night with zero knowledge. The expectation is that you'll just figure it out. And for a lot of women, that first experience is confusing, painful, even traumatic. because you don't know what to expect, and your husband doesn't either. You're both fumbling around in the dark, literally and figuratively. Here's something else that people don't realize. After you get married, there's no honeymoon, no private time to adjust to being a couple. The tradition in most Amish communities is that you spend the first night at the bride's parents' house. Then you spend the next few weeks or even months visiting relatives, staying at their houses, helping with work. Everyone's in your business. Everyone's watching to see if you're happy, if you're adjusting, if there are any problems. There's no space to actually get to know each other as husband and wife. You're performing your marriage for the community from day one. So, do Amish women know their husbands before marriage? Technically, yes. You've spent time with them. You've had conversations. You know their family, their reputation in the community, whether they're a hard worker. But do you know who they really are? Do you know how they handle conflict? What they're like when they're angry? How they treat people when no one's watching? Do you know if you're sexually compatible? If you can communicate about hard things? If you share the same values deep down? Absolutely not. You know a sanitized, community-approved version of them, and they know the same about you. And here's the thing that messed me up the most after I left. In the outside world, people date for years before getting married. They live together, they travel together, they see each other in all kinds of situations. They fight and make up. They figure out if they're actually compatible before making a lifetime commitment. And even then, a lot of marriages don't work out. But in the Amish world, you're expected to commit for life after maybe a year of supervised, restricted interaction. It's insane when you really think about it. I've talked to other ex-Amish women, and so many of us have the same story. We got married young, to someone we barely knew, and spent years discovering we weren't compatible at all. But divorce wasn't an option, so you stayed. You made it work. You buried your unhappiness because leaving meant losing everything. Your family, your friends, your entire support system. Some women are in genuinely abusive marriages and can't leave because the church won't allow it. The bishops tell them to pray more, to submit more, to be better wives. It's heartbreaking. Now that I've been out for a few years, I see how important it is to really know someone before you marry them. Not just the surface stuff, but the deep stuff. How they handle money, how they treat people who can't do anything for them, what their real beliefs are, not just what they say in public. Whether they respect you as an equal or see you as someone to control. These are things you can only learn by spending real time with someone in a bunch of different situations. And the Amish courtship system doesn't allow for any of that. I'm not saying every Amish marriage is bad. Some couples do end up happy, but it's luck more than anything. You're rolling the dice and hoping you picked someone compatible based on almost no real information. And for women especially, it's a huge risk because once you're married, you're expected to submit to your husband in everything. If he turns out to be controlling, abusive, or just someone you don't connect with, you're stuck. And the community will tell you it's your fault. You didn't pray enough. You didn't submit enough. You need to try harder. The whole system is designed to get people married young and keep them trapped. Because once you're married with kids, leaving becomes almost impossible. You have no education beyond 8th grade, no job skills, no money of your own. And if you leave, you lose your kids because the church and your family will turn them against you. So you stay, even if you're miserable, even if you realize you married a stranger. Looking back, I'm so grateful I left before I got married. I came close. There was a guy I was courting when I was 19. Nice enough guy, hard worker, good family. But I realized I didn't actually know him. I didn't know what he thought about anything that mattered. I didn't know if he'd support me or control me, and I didn't want to spend the rest of my life finding out. So, to answer the original question, no. Amish women do not really know their husbands before marriage. They know enough to make a choice, but not enough to make an informed choice. And that's by design, because if young people really got to know each other, really had time to figure out who they were and what they wanted, a lot of them would choose differently. They'd choose to leave, they'd choose partners outside the community, they'd choose lives that don't fit the Amish mold. And the community can't have that, so they keep courtship short, supervised, and shallow. They rush people into marriage before they have time to think too hard about it, and then they use shame, guilt, and the threat of shunning to keep people trapped. I'm still learning what healthy relationships look like, what it means to really know someone before committing to them, and I'm learning that taking your time isn't a bad thing. Getting to know all sides of a person, the good and the bad, before making a lifetime decision, that's wisdom, not sin. If you grew up in a high-control religious community, you probably relate to this. The pressure to marry young, the lack of real information about who you're marrying, the expectation that you'll just figure it out and make it work no matter what. It's not fair. And it's not healthy. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. And if you have questions about leaving the Amish or what courtship was really like, I'm here to answer them. This is my truth. This is what I lived, and I'm done pretending it was normal.